Holy Gospel according to Luke. Jesus said to his disciples, "You see how it is written that the Christ will suffer and on the third day rise from the dead, and that in his name repentance for the forgiveness of sins will be preached to all the nations, beginning from Jerusalem, and you are witnesses to this. And now I'm sending down to you what the Father has promised. Stay in the city then, until you are clothed with the power from on high." Then he took them out as far as the outskirts of Bethany, and lifting up his hands, he blessed them. Now as he blessed them, he withdrew from them, and was carried up to heaven. They worshipped him, and then went back to Jerusalem full of joy, and they were continually in the temple, praising God. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus.
Have you ever experienced joy in your life? Really? You don't look like joyful people. Joy. But what is joy? No, it's not the name of a person. Joy, it's that feeling of goodness. But to help us appreciate the dynamics of joy, there are three words that I would like to compare it with. Actually, two words I'd like to compare it with. Pleasure, happiness, and joy. And for us to appreciate the dynamics of these three words, there is an S word that I would like to use to describe how it is operative in these three words. Do you know what the S word is? No? Happiness, pleasure, joy, S word? No idea. Shopping. Shopping. What are you thinking of? I was thinking of shopping. So shopping. So when you're shopping, when you're getting stuff, when you're getting all the stuff that you like, don't you feel a certain form of pleasure? But the pleasure ends when you realize that you're about to pay those stuff. Pleasure is momentary. It doesn't last long. What is happiness? Happiness, when you buy those stuff and you bring it to your children, especially the chocolates, that stuff, can you see the sparkle in their eyes? That's happiness for them. They're just ecstatic at the thought that their parents or godparents, family or friends, brought stuff for them. It's just happiness. But that happiness, although not momentary, it doesn't last long either. When they realize that the refrigerator is already empty, can you imagine happiness from your children's eyes? Of course not. Even happiness doesn't last long. But joy is more permanent. The idea that you can provide your children with the stuff that they need, the idea that you're able to provide shelter for them and security, and see them enjoying what you've been giving them, that is joy. And that is something that cannot be stolen from you. Joy is something permanent and lasting. So have you ever experienced joy? Second point. Have you seen the Chase UK last Tuesday? You're all working? Oh, lovely. It's not that because I'm not working. It just so happened that I saw it. I was watching the Chase UK. I just realized that it's UK because the prices were in pounds. That signage. Pounds. And one of the questions that were thrown in last Tuesday's game was, what capacity What capability did Zechariah lost when an angel showed himself at the temple? Huh? You don't know? Really? But do you know Zechariah? Who is Zechariah? The father of John the Baptist. And remember, he was in the temple, he was putting incense, and then suddenly this angel showed up, telling him, hey, your old wife is pregnant. And what was his reaction? Disbelief. How can my wife get pregnant? She's old. And what did the angel do to him? He made him mute. And he can only start talking when Elizabeth will bear his son. But after that story, which is the first part of the Gospel of Luke, is the story of Mary, the Annunciation. Same angel showed himself to Mary, and the angel told Mary, hey, you 14, 15-year-old girl, you're pregnant. You're carrying the Son of God. What was Mary's reaction? She asked, how can this happen? But she believed and trusted. That's why her mouth was not made mute. And actually, she was ecstatic about it. She was rejoicing. If you were here last Friday, the gospel reading about the visitation, remember the prayer Magnificat? Mary's cry was, I rejoice. My soul rejoices in my Lord. And she was just so joyful that she decided to run, not just walk, to run towards her cousin Elizabeth to help her out. You're pregnant and you'll run from Singleton to Newcastle. Can you imagine that, doing that? And you're pregnant because you wanted to help your cousin. Because she was just joyful. People who are joyful, actually, if the joy is genuine, he or she can easily serve others without question and unwittingly, because that person is just filled with joy. If you look back at your own experiences, those joyful moments allow you to be of service to others because you're not looking at yourself. Your joy is just flowing profusely and allowing others to experience that joy. That's why I will always ask my mother money when I sense that she is joyful. In your experience of joy, how many times have you been of service to others? So, when was the last time you experienced joy? Those two stories were the beginning of the Gospel of Luke. What we've read today is the last part of the Gospel of Luke. And the word joy comes to the surface again. And Jesus was telling his disciples, you have seen God work in front of you. You have seen God's marvels at work in you. From his death, to his miracles, to his resurrection, God has been operative in them. And he said, goodbye, mate. And he left them. But what were their responses? What was their response? They weren't feeling sad. They were actually feeling joyful because Jesus reminded them to look back at their own experiences and see how God has been actively operative in their lives. Probably, I made a wrong question. I gave a wrong question. Probably the invitation for us is to look at our own lives and try to identify those moments wherein God was actively operating in our lives. Because if we reckon that God is actively alive in us, joy just flows out smoothly. Joy becomes part of our life because the presence of God is marked by a sense of joy. So I ask you, when were those moments you felt God actively alive in your life? And you can even experience God even when you're shopping at Woolies or Coles.